If you read the biographies of famous people, Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Napoleon, you usually get the whole story. You hear about their childhood, their education, their teenage rebellion, and their rise to power. But if you pick up the New Testament and read the biography of Jesus of Nazareth, you hit a massive, frustrating blank wall. We see him born in a manger. We see him at age 12, arguing with priests in the temple. And then silence. The screen goes black. When the lights come back on, he is 30 years old, getting baptized in the Jordan River. That is an 18-year gap. For nearly 2 decades, the Son of God completely vanishes from the historical record. What was he doing? Was he just sweeping sawdust in a carpentry shop in a tiny village for 6,500 days in a row? Or did he leave? For centuries, conspiracy theorists, mystics, and writers have argued that the silence hides a secret. They claim that Jesus spent those lost years traveling the world. There are maps that show him walking the Silk Road to India to study Buddhism in the Himalayas. There are legends that say he boarded a ship with his rich uncle and sailed to Britain to mine tin in Cornwall. There are even claims he visited Japan. These stories are thrilling. They paint Jesus as a global adventurer, a universal master who synthesized the wisdom of the East and West. But is there a shred of historical evidence for any of this? Or are these just Victorian fan fiction? Today, we are going to pack our bags. We are going to travel to a remote monastery in Tibet, the green hills of England, and the archaeological ruins of Galilee to answer the question, where was Jesus during the lost years? First, we have to ask, why is the Bible silent? To modern readers, this gap feels suspicious. If you were writing a biography today, you wouldn't skip high school and college. But in the ancient world, this was normal. Ancient biographies called bio didn't care about character development or childhood psychology. They cared about the public career and the death. We barely know anything about the childhood of Pontius Pilate or the Apostle Paul either. The only clue the Bible gives us is Luke 2:52. And Jesus grew in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and man. That's it. That is the only summary we have for 18 years of life. Historically, the default assumption is that he stayed home. Mark 6:3 calls him a tekton. We usually translate this as carpenter, but the Greek word is broader. It means builder, mason, or craftsman. In a stone-heavy region like Galilee, Jesus wasn't whittling wooden toys. He was likely hauling rocks, building stone walls, and constructing heavy beams for roofs. It was backbreaking, subsistence labor. The argument goes, a poor laborer in rural Galilee didn't have the money or the freedom to backpack across Asia. But in 1887, a Russian war correspondent claimed he found proof that the tekton put down his hammer and picked up a walking stick. Enter Nicholas Notovich. He was a Russian journalist traveling through India and Kashmir. He claimed that while he was visiting the Hemis monastery in Ladakh in the Himalayas, he broke his leg. The monks took him in to heal. According to Notovich, while he was recovering, the head lama brought out ancient, dusty manuscript volumes. They were written in Tibetan. They told the story of a Jewish prophet named Isa, the Arabic name for Jesus. The manuscript supposedly said, at age 13, Isa refused to take a wife and fled Jerusalem. He joined a merchant caravan to Sindh, modern Pakistan. He studied with the Jains. He spent 6 years studying the Vedas and Buddhism in Juggernauth and Nepal. He preached against the caste system, angering the Hindu priests. He eventually returned to Palestine at age 29 to begin his ministry. Notovich published this story in 1894 as The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ. It became an international bestseller. It was the perfect story for the 19th century. Europeans were fascinated by the mystic East. They loved the idea that Jesus' teachings turned the other cheek. Love your enemy were actually Buddhist concepts he learned in the mountains. But was it true? A famous scholar named Max Muller was suspicious. Douglas actually traveled all the way to Hemis Monastery to interview the head Lama. The Lama was confused. He signed a sworn affidavit stating: 1. He had never met a Russian with a broken leg. 2. There was no manuscript about Isa in the library. 3. The whole story was a lie. Most historians today agree. Notovich made it up. It was a literary hoax designed to sell books and bridge the gap between Christianity and Buddhism. Despite this, the Jesus in India theory refuses to die. It was later adopted by the Ahmadiyya Islamic sect, who believed Jesus actually survived the crucifixion and returned to India to die of old age in Kashmir. If the Jesus in India theory was driven by a love for Eastern mysticism, the Jesus in Britain theory was driven by nationalism. There is a stubborn legend in England that Jesus visited the British Isles as a teenager. How? Why? The key figure is Joseph of Arimathea. In the Bible, Joseph is the rich man who donates his tomb for Jesus, but medieval legends expanded his backstory. They claimed he was Jesus' great-uncle and a wealthy tin merchant. In the 1st century, the tin mines of Cornwall were famous. The Romans and Phoenicians traded there. The legend says Uncle Joseph took his teenage nephew Jesus on a business trip to inspect the mines. They supposedly landed in Glastonbury. There is even a local legend that Jesus built a small Waterland daub church. They're the first church in the world. This myth was immortalized in the famous poem Jerusalem by William Blake, which is now an unofficial anthem of England. You probably know the lines: "And did those feet in ancient time walk upon England's mountains green?" Blake is asking, did Jesus really come here? For the British, the answer had to be yes. If Jesus walked on English soil, it meant the Church of England was special. It was older than the Pope. It was directly connected to Christ. It allowed the British to say, "We aren't just a Roman outpost, we are a holy land." But archaeologically, zero evidence, while Roman trade with Britain existed. The idea of a Galilean peasant teenager accompanying a tin merchant to the edge of the known world is historically implausible. It's a beautiful myth of national identity, not history. So, if he wasn't in India or England, was he just bored in Nazareth? Actually, modern archaeology suggests his life was much more interesting and urban than we thought. For a long time, we pictured Nazareth as an isolated hamlet. But in the last 30 years, archaeologists have excavated a major city just 4 miles, 6 kilometers from Nazareth. It is called Sepphoris Zappori. During the exact years of Jesus' youth, 04 BC 226 AD, Sepphoris was a massive construction site. Herod Antipas, the ruler of Galilee, was rebuilding it as his capital city. He was building a theater, palaces, and Roman villas. He needed workers. He needed tectons. It is historically highly probable that Jesus and his father Joseph walked the hour-long commute from Nazareth to Sepphoris every day to work on the scaffolds. This changes everything. Jesus didn't need to go to Rome or India to see the world. The world came to him in Sepphoris. He would have heard Greek philosophy. He would have seen Roman theater. He would have interacted with rich merchants and cynical soldiers. This explains why Jesus' parables are so sophisticated. He talks about banking. about kings going to war, about absentee landlords, about debt. He wasn't a naive peasant. He was a day laborer in a Hellenistic metropolis. He didn't need to go to the Himalayas to learn about the human condition. He learned it on the job site, watching the empire build its monuments on the backs of the poor. The truth about the lost years is likely very boring. He didn't meet the Dalai Lama. He didn't see. He probably spent 18 years sweating, carrying stones, paying taxes, and helping his mother run a household. But there is a profound theology in that boredom. The theories about India and Britain exist because we want Jesus to be a superhero. We want his wisdom to be exotic. We want him to be special from day one. We struggle to accept a God who spends 90% of his life doing absolutely nothing newsworthy. But the Sepphoris theory grounds him in reality. It suggests that his wisdom didn't come from a secret scroll in Tibet. It came from observing life in the dusty, complicated, oppressive world of first-century Judea. He became the Messiah not by escaping the world, but by living in it. What do you think? Did Jesus stay in Galilee, or is there truth to the travel legends? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into the hidden history of history fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that uncovers the real stories behind our beliefs. Thanks for watching.